Yep.
Right?
I've seen both.
yeah, I think I have too. I'm not going to say who or where.
No. Pastor Edgar, welcome. How are you?
Good. Sister Tabitha, how you doing?
I'm doing good. It's so good to have you with us today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I was really excited when you let me know.
Good. So, as you know, we've been discussing a disciplined life and how one can live a disciplined life.
Yeah.
So today our focus is going to actually be on what Paul says when he says, "Follow me as I follow after Christ."
Yep.
What do you think about that?
Well, I think just kind of going back, starting off into, the concept of, discipline and following Christ. Well, a lot of times in church, we're motivated a lot more by inspiration and motivation than we are discipline. So, and I know I'm kind of getting started like already, but before I, get right into that question, I think one of the things that is really important is that our particular generation, and I'm talking, millennials and Gen Zs, I think have lost the concept of discipline, which says no matter how I feel or no matter what I go through, I'm deciding to follow Christ. And following Christ is never, it's not the easiest thing in the world. It does come with its challenges. I think the more mature you are, which you can be a 16-year-old and, mature in Christ at a young age, or you can be, 45 and really immature in Christ.
Yep.
Right?
I've seen both.
yeah, I think I have too. I'm not going to say who or where.
No.
Or what state or what cities. But I do think that first things first is that we have to understand that before taking steps to follow Christ, this can't be a move by inspiration and having to remotivate ourselves to follow Christ. Following Christ is a privilege.
Yeah.
Following Christ is an honor because of what he has already accomplished. And so it is not even my obligation, it is my privilege to be able to follow him and go wherever he is asking us to go. And Paul goes in Corinthians, 1 Corinthians 11:1, he says, "Be imitators of me as I am imitators of Christ."
Right.
And we know something about the Corinthian church is that they were absolutely gifted. They were spiritually gifted. I mean, they had every gift that we would want to see operate in the church.
Yeah.
They had it all down. They can see healing, they can have discernment, and they were still entertaining the flesh. So we can be gifted and still not follow Christ. We can be talented and we can even preach the best words that anyone has ever heard and still not be true imitators of Christ. And so just to kind of set the tone, it really comes down to, am I inspired because of a good Sunday service? Am I motivated because of a good discipleship course that, was spoken to? Am I motivated because I had a good meeting with my pastor? Or do I need to be motivated and re-inspired every day? No, it really comes down to a discipline and understanding when God has already set the tone. He said, love me. He said, two things, right? It's for us to love him and love everybody around him. And that is the most important thing in first following who he is. And it all starts with love.
Yeah, you make a good point, because I think sometimes we get so caught up in the spectacular of living for God.
Yep.
I like the show part of it, but it's so much more than that. It's relationship with him. And I think when we're following God, we have to remember, I'm doing this because I love him, because I want a relationship with him. I want to be close to him, and all the other things will come as naturally,
Yeah. I think that's true. And when we understand that, yes, there is a cost to pay at this type of life, right? Yes, there is a sacrifice, and I'll get into that a little bit later of kind of what I've even been burdened with for today. Is that cost is really worth following.
Absolutely.
Because thank God the price has been paid.
Yeah, definitely.
And so, as I was thinking about, well, I want to be like Paul. I wish I were like Paul.
Listen, he's my favorite. I mean, Jesus, of course, is my favorite. But in the New Testament, he's my favorite writer. I love him. He's so wise and profound. But because of his profound words that he spoke, I think it's hard sometimes for us to always capture it the way it was intended.
Yeah.
And so that's why this question is so good, because we need to really understand the true meaning of following Christ.
Yeah. Well, and even in that chapter, when he makes that statement, he really actually goes into a series of what it looks like to be holy and to be separate. And I think when we understand that following Christ doesn't just mean following, good preachers. It doesn't just mean following good communicators, following good church. We can't be bouncing around based on how we feel,
right,
because this preacher says something good, that preacher says something good, and then we just become, there was a pastor that was online that said, stop calling me your pastor, stop calling me your leader, if you've never even stepped into the walls of this church.
Oh, wow.
And so we have become we have made following Christ so convenient from the comfort of our home that we forgot what it means to take the weight of the cross with us.
Yeah. And it sounds like, to me, entertainment. That's what you're saying. It is. We just love to be entertained.
We love to be entertained.
Yeah.
Well, we're consumers, right? We've been so bought into the idea that and of this consumerism that I have to buy what's convenient. I have to buy what's quick. I've said it before, microwave Christianity, right? Where you put it in for 30 seconds, a minute, boom, and it's ready. And following Christ is a process that has to take place continually. And it also, does matter who you have in your corner, and who's supporting you in your walk,
right,
to be able to be like Christ. That's why I had to find a church with a pastor that had the mind, just like Paul. Hey, I'm trying to do my very best to follow Christ. And I think of some of my pastors and my leaders, and I'm like, I'm just trying to follow you like you follow Christ, and I ain't even there yet. So how am I going to follow Christ?
Right.
But that's the grace of God that He gives us, right? The opportunity to follow Him, and every day is a new opportunity.
Yeah. Okay. So then, what would be a specific example in how we can follow Christ? Something that, as young people, we face and we go through it. And I'm saying young people because I'm including us, right? Yeah. What that would look like on a day-to-day basis?
So first things first, if you don't start your morning off with prayer, you've already messed up.
Yep.
You've already ruined the rest of your day.
I think I should say that again. Say that one more time.
Yeah, if you haven't started your day with prayer, right? If you haven't started your day with prayer, you haven't started with devotion. You've already set the tone for the rest of your day. Yeah. And some of us don't pray a whole week, so you've already set the tone for your whole month. Some of us don't pray a whole month. Now you've set the tone for your whole year. Yeah. And you're wondering why things can't, come together, and we're too busy following the money. We're too busy following the material. It's the truth. We're too busy following relationships. We're too busy following family that don't even have the same convictions, and we're starting to get counsel. The proverb says, "Seek not the wisdom of the ungodly," right? The counsel of the ungodly, and we go to things that are quick and easy, because then we start to think following Christ is a burden. And I was talking to a company leader just 2 days ago, and he was talking about the word pressure. And a lot of times, right, we feel the pressure because when we hear Jesus say, "Take up your cross and follow me," we now begin to feel pressure. We begin to feel weight. The cross itself was about 300 pounds, approximately. The beam that Jesus carried was 75 to about 125 pounds. Okay. That's the beam that He carried to Golgotha. And when you take into consideration the weight that He carried, He was already beaten, He was already bruised, He was already spat at. You couldn't even tell. His face was completely disfigured. His body was completely unrecognizable. Right. And yet He still took 125 pounds of weight to carry all the way up to a mountain or a hill, just so that He can be crucified. And Jesus is actually making it easier on us by just saying, just take up the cross, because He already took the beating.
Wow. And so actually the part you're saying about this configuration where you couldn't recognize him, I think what it's actually saying, if we apply that in a natural sense, is that we have to remember that when we're following Christ, we're getting rid of me.
That's good.
Right? We're getting rid of me.
That's good.
So get rid of you. Let Jesus shine through us. We have to, I should be able to see Jesus in someone if they really are truly following him.
That's so good.
Yeah.
I got a sermon now. But it's,
we tag team preach?
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, let's do it. That is so true, because people are supposed to look at us and not see us. Mm-hmm. People are supposed to look at me and say, you are definitely different. And I don't know if this has happened to anyone or if it's happened to you, when someone just walks up to you and just said, there's something different about you. Yeah. You know, I don't know how many times I've walked to a store or gone to a store or gone to a restaurant, and out of nowhere, and my wife will testify to this, we leave walking out with paying nothing. And they were just like, I don't know, have a great day.
Wow.
And sometimes I would say, you know, hey, do you believe in God? And that's my time to, like, you know,
witness.
Witness.
Of course.
Do you believe in God? And sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't. And God will continue to open doors, because now it's not you that they see. They're seeing something more. Yeah. And going back onto this pressure that I was, you know, going to go on is, we start thinking that following Christ becomes a burden and a pressure, because now we have to live up to certain expectations. But the thing is that we're not. If there's a pressure to live for God, that means we're doing it for us.
Wow.
And this is what this company leader was saying. Pressure is a word that people use as an excuse just to not succeed.
That's profound. And it's so true, because think about all the ways that people use the word pressure, peer pressure. I did it because the person around me made me do it, or because I saw this and I was influenced to do it because I feel equal to this person. Yeah. Right? But if we remember that the only measurement we have is Jesus, and that we're doing it for him, I think it should encourage us to want to do it, because we have to remember we all do it because of love. Yeah. And I think the biggest thing that we struggle with as young people, you know, seasoned saints, is we almost forget that first experience, that first love experience. Because when we first fell in love with God, it wasn't about, what I have to give up. It was, I was willing to do anything. Yeah. Right? So when we go back to that thought, is anything, it becomes easier. And the pressure's almost like lifted. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Because now you're being guided by something that's more than an obligation. Mm-hmm. Now it's not just I'm a living sacrifice, kill me here where I am, which we are a living sacrifice. Yep. We should be a living sacrifice, but it's not a sacrifice to go to church. Mm-hmm. I think that's an excuse just to not be there out of convenience. Yeah. It's not an excuse to lose things that are greater and that can benefit us in our future and our walk with God, that we use sometimes excuses, but the Bible does say that love does cover a multitude of sins. Yes, it does. So if we understood that love covered that multitude of sins, we shouldn't feel that much pressure when we're trying to come closer to God. We've all seen things that we shouldn't have seen. We've all done things that we shouldn't have done. We've all listened to things we shouldn't have listened to. Mm-hmm. We've all talked to people we shouldn't have talked to. And I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but we have hurt people that we didn't even expect to hurt. Right. And people have hurt us in return. Right. And this thing where misery loves company, mm-hmm. where if I'm miserable, pull you in, because I'm not, living the way I should, mm-hmm. so I'm going to pull you into my misery. Well, God is trying to say, I'm replacing the misery with joy. Yeah. I'm replacing the stress with hope. Yep. I'm replacing the worry with my love, mm-hmm. that I can provide to you. So I think that's the love. Yeah. So I just have one final question, and we can wrap it up with this. If you could go back and talk to your younger self, what is the one thing you would say? Oh, there's a lot of things I would say to my younger self. Yeah. You got to give me one. Give me one. What do you think? Yeah. If there was one thing, what's the one thing? Man, I would say so many things. Get over yourself. Wow, that's good. I would say brace yourself.
Yeah.
You just never know what's coming.
Yeah, mine sounds way more negative. Get over yourself.
Well, it's true.
But it is the truth.
Yeah.
I think when you have so much pride and you think you got it all figured out, well, you start to make life about you and not about Jesus.
Yeah, and that's not the goal. It's about him. So we just want to thank you so much for being with us today. I think it was an awesome word that you gave us, and I think it's something for us to really reflect on, to think about.